There are many ways to pass through locked doors in the magical world where you wish to enter or depart discreetly. However, the unlocking charm is your best friend. In DeFi, there is no magic, not really, but we are blessed with coding wizards. And as the great Arthur C. Clarke once said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And today we're covering DeFi's latest addition to the wizarding pantheon, which you might be aware of from its frankly jaw-dropping price movements the past months, or if you're into high-risk leverage, or perhaps you're a closet Potterhead.
Take out your liquidity, Potter.
That's my daughter's wand that she's making. It's pretty cool. You know, it's funny, I do often find myself calling non-crypto natives muggles, but if there's a crypto Hogwarts, you found it, and it's right here. Yes, it's Tuesday, it's time for another class in the dark arts. It's Tutorial Tuesday. Today we're taking a look at Alpha Homora version 2, which was launched just last week, and yes, Hello Homora is a Harry Potter spell.
Hello Homora!
And the inspiration behind Alpha Homora, just one of many DeFi products offered by Alpha Finance Lab, an Ethereum-based protocol for leveraging positions in yield farming pools. ETH lenders can earn high interest on ETH, and yield farmers can enjoy even higher APY from taking on leveraged positions on their farming portfolio. Once every 24 hours, all farm tokens will be converted and automatically added to a user's position. And this helps to compound profits earned while automating yield maximization, thanks to the auto reinvest function. Now, their most recent release, Alpha Homora version 2, allows users to leverage yield farming on Curve, Balancer, SushiSwap, and Uniswap. Users can take leverage on many assets, including ETH, stablecoins, up to 9 times leverage, and other assets. And thanks to composability, you can now also pursue leverage farming via the integration of Homora version 2 with Cream version 2 and Yearn version 2. Composability for the win. Now, there are 4 steps involved in opening a farming position on Alpha Homora. First is to select a pool. Second is supplying liquidity. Third is selecting your leverage and how much of each asset you want to borrow. And the 4th step is to confirm the strategy. So let's drop 2 minutes on the clock and get to it. So first thing to do is to head over to the Alpha Homora dashboard. And I have to say, this is a pretty sexy looking UI, really nicely designed, good font, and it gives you lots of information about the different farms. And the one we're interested in is the Curve 3 pool, 117.62% yield farming APY. Alpha APY 174.68. Sounds nice. So we're going to click on Farm. And now we have to supply tokens. So earlier on, I loaded up a few different tokens. I got DAI, USDC, and USDT. And then we can select how many of these we want to use. Now I'm just going to max it out, 200 of each. I'm feeling lucky. And then we go to Next. And this is where it all gets kind of fun. So we want to decide how much leverage we want to use. So I'm just going to set it on the middle. We can change this later on. There's a few different sliders and settings that we want to change, but I'm just going to set it to 4x at the moment. And then we have more sliders. And if we look further down, we can see that if we want to borrow DAI, it's 41% APY. If we want to borrow USDC, it's 39%. If we want to borrow USDT, it's 41%. Now, earlier on, when I looked at this today, DAI was sitting at only 17%. So actually, it would have been cheaper for me to just max out my borrows on DAI and then leave the other ones alone. But now, looking at this, they're kind of similar. USDC is a little cheaper. So what we're going to do is we're going to ramp up the amount of USDC we're going to borrow. And as you can see, the debt ratio is starting to go up, and our borrow power is starting to go up. So essentially what's going on here is we have some collateral that we've supplied, and then we're going to leverage that collateral for more collateral that isn't ours, but we're borrowing it in order to max out the amount that we can actually trade. And the reason you might want to do this is because sometimes you have conviction over a trade, but you don't necessarily have full conviction, so you want to bet a small amount, but pretend like you've bet a big amount, and then have the gains that you would have as if you had that large amount. But also sometimes people just want to, gamble, shall we say. So they leverage what they have to create a larger position, act like a whale. And of course, the risk here is that you get liquidated. So what we're going to try and do now is change the sliders around to get to a risk level that we're comfortable with. So at 4x leverage, if I start to slide the USD slider up, you can see the debt ratio heading up. And then there, the borrow power goes into the red. So we've gone over 100% borrow power. That's a bad thing. Same thing with debt ratio. If I keep pushing the slider up, the debt ratio will eventually hit 100, and that is a bad thing. Now, I only hit 95 by pushing up USDC, but if I push up the DAI, for instance, then yeah, we're into the red. And we're massively over leveraged. So what you want to do is try and get to a balance of the amount of leverage you want versus the amount of collateral you want versus, of course, the amount you're going to pay back through the borrow APY. And 40% sounds like a lot, and it is. So let's slide these back down. So if we just do a USDC strategy and we set it to around 25%, that's going to tell us now that our debt ratio is 67% and our borrow power is 50%, and we're doing that at a 4x leverage. Now that's fairly manageable. So essentially what we're doing is we've got 600 essentially dollars in collateral we're putting up, and we're then borrowing 957 USDC to act as if we effectively have 1,500 USD. It's hard to kind of be exact about DAI, USDC, and USDT because they're not exactly one-to-one with US dollars, but that feels like a reasonably conservative strategy, and we're going to click OK. One thing to bear in mind is if the debt ratio here goes above 100, you will be liquidated. And being liquidated means your collateral goes away. Once the amount that you have borrowed exceeds the amount of collateral you've put in, the engine automatically just strips you of your collateral and you're done. So something to bear in mind, you don't want to get liquidated. So here is a little overview of what we've got. So it says you will supply 200 or so DAI, 202 USDC, 201 USDT, that's the collateral. It then says we're going to borrow, no DAI, 957.5821 USDC and 0 USDT from the bank. And then we're going to add all of that to the liquidity pool. And you've got options here to change your price slippage tolerance. I've got mine set at 0.05%. The default's actually 1%. And then we can approve DAI. Now, earlier on, this was quite expensive. It's not too bad. So it's around $24 at the moment. I'm going to do that. And then we have to wait because this is Ethereum and we have to wait. Always have to wait. But once you've done that, you can then go ahead and confirm your strategy, and then you'll be effectively farming with leverage. Now, this is me putting in small amounts just to demonstrate the platform. But what's fun here is that you have the option to supply only one stablecoin like DAI, or you can have a few different ones and trade up your recipe. And as I said earlier on when I looked at this, it was a lot cheaper to borrow DAI than it was to borrow USDC or USDT. So you can kind of hunt around for the best rate for yourself. And again, you're going to be looking at those sliders to generate the best recipe for your leverage that you want. If you go on BitMEX or something like that, you've got one slider and it goes all the way up to 100x, and you can just basically pick your flavor of degeneracy. Here, you can be a little bit more refined and nuanced about how you set up your leverage. So that is effectively it. It's very, very simple. It's very, very easy. And that's a little alarming, but it's a lovely UX. It's a lovely looking bit of software. And I love the different options you have. And if you're looking to dip a toe into leverage yield farming, you can start small and scale up as you become more comfortable with it. This is a good thing. It's a nice looking platform. So that was a quick look at opening a leverage farming position on Alpha Homora. Obviously, it goes without saying that leverage is risky, and if the market goes against you, then liquidation is waiting for you. And that is a lesson you only really want to be taking once. Liquid, if you can help it. If you found this useful, invoke the subscribers charm and ding that bell, or you know who will hunt you down. See you next week, and for God's sake, don't over leverage. See ya.